You can't take it from me. You got to read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you got to ask yourself, does the evidence point to Christ being reliable or not? You don't know me from Adam, man. I could be out here as a charlatan, okay? But you got the Gospels. It's only about 180 pages, sir. You're a university student. You're more than capable of reading those 4 Gospels. And then you ask yourself, does the evidence point to Christ being reliable or does it not?
How can you choose which part of Christianity or Islam to follow? Because as I'm sure you are aware of, and I'm aware of, that Christianity has multiple paths.
Okay, good question. When you look at Christianity, I think you'd be a fool to put your faith in Christianity. Because the evidence is Christianity's been used to justify the Crusades, the Inquisition, burning witches. So the evidence is you and I would be idiots to put our faith in Christianity. But when you read the Gospels, the source documents of Jesus of Nazareth, and examine how did Jesus live, what did he teach, how did he die, and did he rise from the dead or not, the evidence is Jesus Christ is reliable in a way that Christianity, the religion, is not. So that's why I'm standing here pleading with you guys not to become followers of Christianity. Instead, I'm saying, read the Gospels, examine Jesus Christ, based on the evidence pointing to his being reliable, put your faith in Christ, not in Christianity.
Okay.
How have I not answered you? It's a great question.
I don't know, it's still like vague.
What's vague about it?
Because there's so many paths, and they all aim for the same thing.
Yeah, well, people have a free will, and people put their own spin on things, right?
If we have a free will, aren't we then basically encouraged to question things, though?
Absolutely, you've got to question things.
So if we question the existence of God, is that going against God?
No. If you question the existence of God, you're honestly searching for the evidence that God exists, and you want the evidence. You don't want to blindly believe.
Can we question the truth about Jesus?
Of course. You question everything. But then you follow the evidence. Where does the evidence point to? I mean, isn't that the way you live your life? You question, question, question. You're in search of truth. But then you follow the evidence, where the evidence leads. It's the way I live my life.
Well, what if the truth that we know, or what we think is true, is not real? It's just based off of fallacies that we're...
You bet. Well, you better be thinking hard and carefully, and if you begin to realize you're believing a lie, you better reject that lie and not believe in it. And you see, that's Paul's argument. In 1 Corinthians 15, Paul writes, if Jesus Christ is not risen from the dead, we're fools for believing in him. He's a fraud. I like that. Faith in Christ is not believe, believe, believe. No, quite to the contrary. Faith in Christ is the evidence he is reliable. That's why I trust in him. And if he's not risen from the dead, because he said I'm going to die and rise from the dead, and he didn't pull it off, he's not reliable. So Paul says I'm not going to believe in him. That's good thinking. Good questioning. Okay, sir, do you believe there's a heaven? Or life after death?
Yes.
Okay, why do you think there's life after death?
Because I want to think that.
Do you think that's an adequate reason to believe there's life after death? Because you want there to be life after death?
Yes.
Okay, why is that adequate for you?
Because that's how people make decisions. They think about what the consequences for those decisions are. So I think the consequences for my decisions are going to govern what happens to me later on in life. And not just my physical life, but after my life.
Yeah, but why on earth, in light of the fact that you've never seen anybody rise from the dead, in light of the fact you've never seen a heaven, why would you believe there's a heaven? What's the evidence that heaven is real?
That's how I was grown up.
Pardon?
That's how I grew up. I was grown in a Russian Orthodox church, and I was always taught there was a heaven. I wasn't told what that heaven was, though, so I'm free to think about what it could be for myself.
So you believe there's a heaven because your mom and dad and your church told you there was a heaven?
No, because I questioned the existence of the heaven during church. I did it during school. I've always done it.
You believe there's a heaven because you question whether there's a heaven?
Yeah. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
And by questioning it,
You gotta be
say-
kidding me, sir. You
said-
believe
said
something
yourself,
exists because you question whether it exists?
You said yourself, by questioning things, you're trying to prove that they exist.
No.
So
No.
is that not what you said about 5
No.
minutes ago?
You
Yes, it is.
question in order to find evidence.
To prove it's
And then
true.
you follow the evidence wherever the evidence leads. I don't believe something's true because I'm able to question it. I believe something's true because the evidence points to it being real. Come on, you guys can think that well, can't you? If you say, I believe God exists because I question whether God exists, you're an idiot. I'm an idiot. If I say, I believe in Jesus Christ because I question whether Christ is the truth, I'm an idiot. You don't believe something is true because you question whether it's true. The questioning whether it's true had better motivate you and drive you to look for evidence.
So you're saying if I just stop questioning it, then it's true. Did you ever stop questioning Jesus?
Follow evidence.
Do you still question Jesus today?
I struggle with doubt, yes. I have doubts. I sure do. Every time I sin, it shows I doubt. So I doubt whether God exists at times. I doubt whether Christ is the truth. If I never doubted, I'd never sin. I'd live a perfect life. If I took Jesus seriously, I would never sin. The fact that I sin shows that I do doubt. I don't take Christ seriously all the time. Now I ask for forgiveness, and He forgives me, and I grow. And then when I've got doubts, I study the evidence.
How do you know He forgives you? Does it feel different?
How do I know He forgives me? Because He promises to forgive me. And the evidence is, He doesn't lie.
Did you ever break a promise?
I have broken many promises, yes.
So why can't Jesus?
Well, He could. But the evidence is He doesn't.
What evidence?
Thank you. There you go. Now that's what you got to keep asking.
I don't want to hear the excuse that because the Bible said so.
Well, where would you like me to tell you to find out about Muhammad?
Enlighten me, please.
The Quran.
Do not say the Quran. Do not use any sort of religious text as justification that he doesn't lie.
Why are
or
you
that
so
it is
biased
true.
against religious texts?
Because people wrote it. And
I do not have a right to reject the Quran because it's a religious text. That's bigoted closed-mindedness.
I'm not saying that I reject it.
Well, it's claiming to give accurate representation of what Muhammad taught. And when I study the evidence, the manuscript evidence for the Quran, it's crystal clear that that's a very reliable document, the Quran.
Where's the evidence that proves it's wrong, though? How much evidence is there that proves it's right versus that it's wrong?
The Quran is not wrong. The Quran is a reliable document preserved over the past 1,500 years meticulously. Now, read the Quran and ask yourself, does the evidence of the way Muhammad treated people, what he taught, how he died, what happened after his death, does that evidence point to Muhammad being reliable or does it not? And do the same with Jesus. The overwhelming evidence is the Gospels are meticulously historical narrative, very clearly preserved. Over 5,200 Greek manuscripts or pieces of manuscript from the 2nd through the 10th century AD, found from Rome and Italy, around the Mediterranean to Alexandria, Egypt, all agreeing to an infinitesimal degree. There's no document from antiquity that can even approach the New Testament. Not Aristotle, Plato, Thucydides, Herodotus, no document from antiquity. No historical person from antiquity is supported with anywhere near the manuscript evidence that Jesus is. So simply read the Gospels as history and ask yourself, does the historical evidence, one more time, historical evidence point to Christ being reliable or does it not?
Depends on how far you want to question it.
Okay, good. So be honest and be realistic. And you're right. If you're going to say, Jesus, in order for me to believe you right now, I want you to turn this water into wine. That's pretty dishonest. Or like the Michigan State student said to me, Jesus, in order for me to believe in you, make the sun go dark right now, and I'll give you 60 seconds. That's basic dishonesty. But if you're open to truth, and if you're open to God, if you're open to Christ, then you're going to allow Him to reveal Himself as He chooses. The same way, if you really love her, You're never, are you going to look her in the face and say, unless you have sex with me, I don't believe you love me? Because that would be manipulative, wouldn't it? That'd be really dishonest. You allow a woman to reveal her love to you as she chooses, not as you manipulate. Well, you better do the same with Christ, with God. And then just be open and search. Does that make any sense?
It does.
Good.
That doesn't convince me to believe that Jesus was the Messiah or that there is a God, though.
Well, that's not my responsibility. I'm not here to convince you. You've got to read the Gospels for yourself. You can't take it from me. You got to read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you got to ask yourself, does the evidence point to Christ being reliable or not? You don't know me from Adam, man. I could be out here as a charlatan. Okay? But you got the Gospels. It's only about 180 pages, sir. You're a university student. You're more than capable of reading those 4 Gospels. And then you ask yourself, does the evidence point to Christ being reliable or does it not? And guess what? If the evidence is that Christ is not reliable, then I got 2 simple questions for you. The first one is, who is reliable? And second question is, what's the evidence that your alternative to Christ is really more reliable? And I would love to hear the answer to those 2 questions.
Can I ask you a question then?
Sure.
What is your evidence that Jesus does not exist, or not that he doesn't exist, but that he was not the Messiah?
The reason that the majority of Jews rejected Jesus as Messiah is because he did not fulfill the political expectations of Messiah. He did not kick the Romans out of Palestine.
That's your own doubt, though?
No, that's the reason the majority of people rejected him.
What's your personal belief or doubt as to why Jesus is the Messiah?
Well, I don't doubt that he's the Messiah.
Well, you had to have to prove that he was. Because when you were born, you didn't just assume that Jesus was the Messiah. You had to learn for yourself and question things to understand that the evidence pointed that towards that he was the Messiah. Right. So what were those? Okay, good. So to be honest with you, I'm not a Jew, so I could give a rip about whether Jesus was Messiah or not. Okay, my deeper question is he God? He claims to be God in human form. Okay? Where's your evidence that proves that he couldn't have been the God? My evidence that he could not be God? Yeah, because you had to have some form of thought that showed that he wasn't the God, and then you had to contradict yourself and say that he was the God, because the evidence that said that he was greater than that he wasn't. Okay, the reason that I doubt Christ, the reason I doubt God, is because I love to play God. I'm a proud man, which means God Almighty me likes to do it my way. That's the root of my struggle with doubt. Secondly, intellectually, the reason I doubt at times is because I can't see God, because I can't see Christ, because I can't hear him audibly or grab him, I doubt at times because of that. So those are the 2 main reasons I doubt. First of all, because I want to do my life my way. I don't want anybody intervening. I'm a proud person. And secondly, I doubt God, I doubt Christ because I can't see them and I wish I could see them. See, I have my best relationships with people I can see and audibly hear. And the fact that I cannot see God, I cannot see Christ, I cannot hear him, that's the root of a lot of my doubt. Does that make sense? No. Now, the evidence is that God exists even though I can't see him. So that's why I grow in my faith as I study the evidence. The evidence is that Jesus Christ was real, but when I doubt that, I go back and look at the evidence. And then as a result of studying the evidence, my faith grows. See, sir, if you said, Cliff, I will give you $1 million right now if you honestly, genuinely believe, Cliff, that there's a pink elephant right here, I couldn't do it. I mean, sure, I could say to you, I believe there's a pink elephant here. I'd be lying through my teeth. Because everything in my mind, everything in my experience tells me there is no pink elephant here. See, sir, so I can't believe something just because it's financially beneficial. I have a mind that longs to know reality, truth.
So the reason that I believe God exists is because the order and design of the universe points to an intelligent mind. The fact that the Big Bang is probably true, not definitely, but probably, points to the fact the universe is not eternal, there is a beginning. Everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning, therefore the universe has a cause. God is the uncaused cause. Moral absolutes that I experience when my conscience reels back with moral indignation over the abuse of a child tells me that there are objective morals. Therefore, there's got to be a moral lawgiver. There's got to be some type of God. And then when I read the Gospels, not as the Word of God, simply as history, I see, the historical evidence of the way Jesus treated people. Man, in my best moments, that's the way I've wanted to treat people. The historical evidence of what he taught. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to them the other also. Demands respect. And then when I watch how he dies on a cross, offering forgiveness to his enemies, my respect takes another big leap. But then when I see the evidence that 3 days after he died, he rose from the dead, sir, it's a no-brainer. If you die and rise from the dead, I promise to listen very closely to everything you have to say. So the resurrection of Christ sets him apart from Muhammad, Siddhartha Gautama, Shirley MacLaine, Tom Cruise. He rose from the dead. He's unique. He's reliable. That's why I believe in him.
Was Muhammad unique compared to Buddha?
Different, absolutely, yes, sir. Buddha never once talked about God. He was agnostic when it came to God. Obviously, you read the Quran, and Muhammad insisted that the center of the cosmos is Allah.
So each person had something that set them apart from everybody else, just like Jesus rose from the dead.
Yes. But when it comes to determining reliability, everybody can claim something. The question is, can you back up your claim? And the resurrection of Christ clearly backs up Christ's claim to be more than a man, to be God in human form.
So that's the crux of your belief then, in Christianity, is the resurrection.
That is the most important piece of evidence pointing to Christ's credibility. Yes, ma'am. That's why Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 15, if Christ is not risen from the dead, we're fools for believing in the guy.
I'm assuming that I'm believing something, I'm going to believe it. I don't know if you're a Mormon or whatever, but there's modern historical accounts of some dude who found some gold plates, and they had all this extra information about, that there were people in North America. Jesus came to North America. Should I also treat those as a historical source? Why or why not?
You guys are raising a great issue, which is, how do you determine whether any document is historically accurate or not? I mean, certainly history is a legitimate form of knowledge, otherwise Ohio State is ripping you guys off by charging you money to take a history course, right? So you obviously know that history is a legitimate form of knowledge, but the excellent question you're asking is, how do you determine what's history and what's not? How do you determine what's fact versus what's fiction? You want to take a stab at it?
I mean, personally, I haven't taken any history classes here. I'm a mathematics PhD student, and I deal with truths which are uncontradictable. I mean, I only invest in knowledge which I know to be absolutely certain. And but I do think that history, if you look at a history book from 100 years ago, compiled from everyone's ideas of history from the last 3,000 years, it's going to be very different from a history book today. And all you can say is our current state of knowledge is that we think, this is what probably happened. You can only say probably. You can never be sure.
All right, but wait a second, sir. Prove to me that yesterday you walked on this earth.
I don't believe I can.
Okay, good.
I think I might have
Then if you cannot prove to me that yesterday you
walked
walked on this earth, but you're convinced that yesterday you did walk on this earth, I would assume.
No.
You don't?
No, I think that it's very probable that this entire universe was created an instant ago with all of my memories in place. I mean,
Okay, good.
that's
You're being consistent. I like that. You're right. Maybe a very intelligent scientist created you this morning in a big vat, and put all the memories that you have in your brain in your head.
The chances are that I am an artificial intelligence. Probably I am just in a vat. I mean,
All right,
I don't.
But are you able to live that out?
Yes, because
Really? Then how do you treat your mom and dad?
so for myself, whether or not I was created an instant ago or whether or not there are any other people who actually exist, I'm going to live my life in a way that makes me happy, because I'm all for being happy. And for me, happiness is derived from treating other people, whether they're real or not, in a good way.
Do you treat your
making
mom
them
and dad in a different way than you treat other people, or no? Do you thank your mom and dad because they have sacrificed for you, or do you not?
I do.
Well, then why are you doing that if you're not sure that they really did sacrifice? Because they might be an illusion. Your memories are just illusions, remember?
Even if they were illusions, I'm not certain that they are. So I'm hedging, so I can hedge on the bet that they probably aren't illusions. Or I could just say to myself, I'm happier if I was all alone and everything else is an illusion, I would be happier living my life as if it were not. And so
But if you're going to be consistent, you have to be an epistemological nihilist, which means you really don't know why you know anything. You don't know that you can know anything. Because if you think about it, if what you say is true, your rational mind is the result of the non-rational, the irrational. And so how can you be convinced that you know anything, even mathematical truth? How do you know? Charles Darwin wrote a letter to a man named Mr. Graham in 1883. And in this letter, Charles Darwin writes, in light of the fact that our minds are simply highly developed monkeys' minds, why do we trust our minds to tell us the truth about reality? Would you trust the thoughts of a monkey? I like that. The guy's being consistent with what he says he believes. So if you really believe that you were just created in a vat this morning, why on earth would you look into the face of your mom and dad and say, thank you for all the way you've loved me and sacrificed for me over the past 20 years?
Because even if I was only created instants ago, then I was created in such a way that I feel better about saying those things to my parents than just dissing them and like, screw you guys. So as a result, I do these things. I mean, I'm set up to say these kinds of things to my parents.
Good. Which means you're set up.
Yeah.
You don't have free will, do you?
I don't know what free will is.
You don't?
No.
All right. I go up to this woman, haul back, slap her in the face. What are you going to say to me?
I'll say that probably the fact that you were set up in this way and that the universe has orchestrated for you to do this.
Good.
Means that your neurons are wired up in such a way that you're likely to do this kind of thing again to other people, and maybe even to me. And because you're wired in this way, then I, not wanting to be slapped myself, am going to be like, yo, whoa, dude, I'm going to call the police on you because I want you locked up, because I don't want your crazy miswired brain to be acting itself out in the universe anymore.
Good. But you have to acknowledge, I'm not responsible for hitting her, as you pointed out so well. It's just my biochemical reaction that forced me to slap her, right?
Sure.
So there's no such thing as free will, which means you definitely wouldn't hold me responsible, would you, for slapping her?
I mean, I don't know who I would be holding. If there's no agent, if there's no person, then
Exactly.
I don't know who I would be holding responsible.
That's right.
I'm going to put you in a jail only so that you don't repeat this to other people.
Right.
Later on.
So if I steal your wallet, you're not going to look me in the face and say, you should not have stolen my wallet. Instead, you're going to understand Cliffe's biochemical reactions forced him to steal my wallet. Therefore, we have to alter Cliffe's biochemical reactions in order to alter his behavior. That's the key.
And the most effective way, especially with little kids, to alter their biochemical setup is to make them feel bad about things by saying, that wasn't very nice. That's the most effective way to alter their biochemical setup. I mean,
how does speaking to them alter their biochemical reaction?
Well, right now I'm speaking to you, and I'm very sure that you have all of this stuff going on in your brain right now as a result of my speech.
And guess what? I promise you, from the depths of my being, that right now I can be so disrespectful to you, it'd be embarrassing. Or I can choose to be respectful. And guess what? I'm convinced you can do the same. I'm convinced I don't have to be respectful of you and you don't have to be respectful of me. And I don't have to be disrespectful of you, and you don't have to be disrespectful of me. And I can promise you, sir, 2 children growing up in the same family, with the same mom and dad, with the same environment, one graduates and becomes a murderer, and the other graduates and becomes a philanthropist. And if you think that a human being is just the sum total of their genetic makeup and the influences of their environment, then I got a story to tell you.
Okay.
The man's name
But even though those
was Wilkes. And he was one of the greatest actors in the mid-1800s of Shakespeare. And Thomas Wilkes acted in New York City, and he acted in London, and he was praised. Then he comes back to the United States, and Thomas has 2 other brothers, John and Junius, who are both very talented actors. And they pull off Hamlet, and they pull off Julius Caesar. And it's fascinating that the brother John plays Brutus. Because 1 year later, the brother of Thomas Wilkes, John Wilkes Booth, assassinated Abraham Lincoln. Thomas was so disheartened by the fact that his brother assassinated the President of the United States that he dropped acting. But one day in New Jersey, he was standing on a train platform, and a young man beside him suddenly slipped onto the tracks. And Thomas Wilkes leaned over, grabbed the guy, had his leg hooked around a pole, and pulled the young man out from the oncoming train. 2 weeks later, he got a letter from Ulysses S. Grant thanking him for saving the son of an American hero. That was the son of Abraham Lincoln, who Thomas pulled out of the train tracks. Thomas Wilkes carried that note from Ulysses S. Grant in his pocket till the day he died. 2 brothers, same parents, same profession, acting. One assassinated Abraham Lincoln, the other saved Lincoln's son from getting run over by a train. Sir, for you to say that human beings are simply the result of their genetic makeup and their environment is an insufficient explanation of human behavior.
Think to yourself right now, are you planning in advance all of the words that you're saying and making sure that they're going to form themselves into grammatical English sentences, or are they just coming out essentially by, the fact that you have some schematics that tell you how to produce English sentences, you've got some vague idea, and it ends up generating these sentences which could be written down on a page?
Sir, I speak at MIT and I speak at some state university campuses, and I can promise you, sir, there is a big difference in the ability of a Harvard student and an MIT student to think, and the difference compared to a junior college student's ability to think. There is a humongous gulf. And if you think I'm going to buy your line that says, well, no, I just have diarrhea of the mouth and I just speak the way I do. Baloney, you're a PhD student in mathematics.